I want to talk about healing internalized oppression from a Chinese medical point of view. And all of that is in the realm of liver qi constraint. What is liver qi constraint? It's the energy of growth, expansion, and renewal, and freedom constrained, held tight. Not all liver qi constraint is internalized oppression. Internalized oppression is a subgroup of liver qi constraint. All liver qi constraint is a kind of uptightness of one kind or another, a kind of thinking inside the box and living inside the box, you being the box, your ideas being the box, your skin being the box, and not having the creative freedom of the spirit to move anywhere beyond the bounds of time and space. So that kind of uptightness, unfortunately, could come from just about anywhere. We get uptight. We limit our own freedom. We're not free to move. Our imagination is not able to know the different possibilities, which means we can't choose them, nor know ourselves in a larger context than the confines of the circumstances that we are in. We don't always do that. I don't always do that. There's a million forms of inhibition and uptightness for many reasons, some of them on purpose. Like, for instance, somebody does some fool thing and we don't punch them in the nose. And this takes a certain one could call that liver qi restraint, but sometimes it gets stuck. At that point where it gets stuck, I've been holding it in, I've been holding it in, I've been holding it in. It's been a year, it's been a decade, it's been a lifetime, I'm holding it in. We may get to the point where we're just stuck in hold it in mode. That verges on internalized depression, but I don't think it's quite worthy of that term. It's just bad. It's not good. What I'm calling internalized depression is liver qi constraint that specifically has a down press feeling to it. Chai hu baplurum being the premier herb for lifting liver qi constraint upward and outward. Not all occasions of liver qi constraint warrant using chai hu. You may be a crumpled little person for whom Xiang Fu Sai Paris would be such a relief to you and everybody around you. Chai hu baplurum is really when you feel kept down. And the chai hu opens us into our full size, which is much larger than our body. We're enormous, which is much larger than our circumstances, and most especially as a wood issue, is much larger than how other people are seeing us. So what I'm calling internalized depression is when the observer's eye is dominating our eye. It's appropriate to notice how other people are seeing us. It is important for our navigation of circumstances to get it. Oh, they're seeing me like that. But the taking on of it, that's liver qi constraint of the chai hu kind. That's down pressing. That's internalized depression. John the Conqueror was an American folk hero about whom stories were told by the enslaved people of America. And John the Conqueror was a man whom the white people thought of as a slave. He knew that the white people thought of him that way, and that factored into his thinking about what might be happening next. But he knew he was not a slave. He knew he was John the Conqueror, a free man. And all the John the Conqueror stories are they're generally quite funny, quite cheeky, quite clever, but way more than that, they're living examples of what does it look like when you are in your freedom in very tight circumstances, when you are actually under oppression, like actual oppression, but not taking on the internalization of oppression. I was thinking I'd also like to mention some acupuncture for internalized depression. What do we do? How do we go after that? And acupuncture is less specific than herbs are. So anything that we're doing with acupuncture for internalized depression, we could be doing for a lot of other things too. I would start with sources, liver 3, gallbladder 40. Liver 3 is just the general node of freedom, especially a freedom that is free of any sense of regulatory anything. We're just free, moving in any direction. And gallbladder 40, Worsley translates it as wilderness mound. But if you look at the characters, it could actually be translated as ball and socket joint. Or like, you could go anywhere from here. You got to do Gate of Hope, liver 14, because a lot of internalized depression settles right there in the relationship between liver 14 and do 20. If the chi only gets up as high as Gate of Hope, you're not going to have a vision. People think that you need to have a vision in order to have hope, and it's the other way around. Gate of Hope needs to be open so that the Hun can fly free, so that our visionary spirit can fly free and start looking around and keep looking around, so that when somebody comes and says, come on up, I got a lifeline, your imagination is able to say, I'm going to run with you. Let's do this, as opposed to being trapped with Gate of Hope closed. So I find that another set of points on the gallbladder is also very important for internalized depression. I would already have gallbladder 40 in. If there is a great deal of rage, I would be putting gallbladder 30 in the hips. Because the main thing about rage is you want it recycling as power, not a stroke, not all the other things that can happen. And so it's like right in the hips, allows it's like a wheel in there. Like when that's open, it's like a wheel so that it can come up and come back down again and settle in the legs, in the gut as power that will be deployed by our choice. Because we're not free if we're impulsive either. That's not freedom. We're not free if we're out of control. So I would put gallbladder 30 in as a nice safety measure there before working with gallbladder 20, 21, 22, and 23.